Hey guys, welcome back to the Studley vlog. Today is going to be a long day. So first we headed off to Ventura. There was a report of a giant brush fire. We pulled up on scene and there were some people chilling on their roofs watching the fire. Originally what happened was we were stuck in traffic for about an hour and 10 minutes or so we arrived pretty late. So the fire was right by the 101 and the 23, basically right when you get onto the 23 from the 101. And it burned up the side of this hill. So today I'm shooting with my Fuji Xpro2 and a 23 and a 35mm lens, as well as my Sony A-7 with a few M lenses. And I was also using my Hexxar rangefinder, which is a Konica camera, and it ended up that the rangefinder was out of calibration. And I'll be making a better video about this camera coming out soon, so keep an eye out. So while we were in Ventura shooting this, another call came out for a fire over in Lake Hughes. So we hopped back in the car and headed to that fire. We stopped off over in Castaic and I took a few photos of the river that runs between the mountains up there. Also, I'm with my buddy Leo. This is Bike105 over on Instagram, and he provided a ton of the video for this video. So if you see the little Bike105 in the corner, that means that he shot it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So we arrived on scene at the Johnson fire. That was the name of this one. And this one actually started from a car that lost control and slammed into a power line and burst into flames and ended up burning up like a ton of this person's land. So a lot of the time you'll see us out shooting at different spots, but in certain places you're not allowed to break the rules. So if it's private property and there's no trespassing signs, we aren't allowed to go past that, but we're allowed to stay behind the signs and the fences. So CAL FIRE and LA County had responded to this fire, and they were out doing drops. Multiple different helicopters and planes were coming in, and it was kind of cool because we'd see them and they'd come up right next to us and then they just dip right into the side of this mountain, and you couldn't hear them anymore because the sound wasn't going over the mountain. We noticed that the dozer team had just pulled up, and these bulldozers are crazy. They are massive, and I've never actually seen them unload off of the truck, so it was pretty cool to be right there watching it happen. So I bet you're wondering, why do they have bulldozers? Well, these are actually pretty cool, and I didn't learn about this until I started chasing fires, but they send out these bulldozers, and bulldozers can basically drive through anything, so they can take out a whole side of a mountain, they can clear a way for roads, but because they're so big, they can clear like a 8 to 10 foot gap in the ground, so the fire burns up to it and usually will stop. So that's what they call it when they put up a fire line. And it's basically just a fire break so that the fire doesn't continue to burn. I noticed these baby watermelons that had been run over by the bulldozer. We finally made it to the top of the hill after following behind the bulldozer, and with that you have to stay about like 100 to 200 feet back because they don't have like any way to see you because they're driving a bulldozer. So you just got to be safe. But we made it up top and were able to see where everything was burning still. So we made it up to the very top of the mountain and the fire had burned all the way down, so we weren't able to actually see anything and there was just a ton of smoke. Just keep walking. So we headed back and we stopped off over in Lake Hughes, and this fire, the Johnson fire, was basically about a mile down from where the lake fire had burned up to. Now during the lake fire, this had all been like pitch black out and everything was burning, so I couldn't really see what was around me. So coming back here was really interesting to see how it looked from that night to how it looks now. Also, all the ostriches from the ostrich farm that was right there, they were all good and they were just chilling. They're kind of strange animals. It's still about a month past the fire and there's still no power out there, which is pretty sad. I'm making these pictures to show the difference of how it is at the fire and after. And it's pretty crazy just to see in person. So this is the mountain where that 1,000-foot fire tornado was. So we kept driving and stopped in a few more areas that we had been to during the fire. And I'm making this video not as a way to be like, oh, look at all this burned stuff, but just to show how destructive fire is and what it destroys. And I'm also going to be putting a link in my bio, so if you want to donate to help with these families and their houses and homes and land that burned, you can donate there if you want. Something I've noticed is that the news, they love when fire's burning and when there's stuff, but they never come back and show the destruction and show how people are after the fire. And when the Woolsey fire hit us in my town 2 years ago, it was sad to see just all this destruction, and the news kind of just moved on. So I kind of wanted to show what it's really like after a fire and kind of the whole process. But it's just so sad to see all this stuff gone. So we headed back to the valley because it had gotten too dark, and we got back home after a long day, and as we were unloading the car, we heard that there was an accident that happened right down the street from us. So a lady had been intoxicated and was drunk and actually hit the center divider in this neighborhood and like flipped her car, and it flew probably like 50 or 60 feet and was upside down, and they took her to the hospital, but she was pretty much okay. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like a little curb flipped this car. So we were sitting here and we heard over the police radios that there was an officer in need of help over at the Van Nuys station.
It's an off-frequency, officer needs help. Van Nuys and Delano, officer needs help. Officer surrounded by protest.
If I died tonight, Mom, sorry. So it was about midnight at this point, and there had been 50 to 75 protesters going and tagging, and they actually burned the American flag off the station and trying to break in, and actually attacked a couple officers' cars. And so they called in for backup, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. Normally, I don't like to go to these calls just because you never know what could happen, and they're not the most safe calls to go to, but it was at a police station and there was a lot of cops, so it seemed pretty safe. Now, the group of people rioting outside the station had quickly dispersed after about 30 minutes. So the police were there just in case they came back. And yeah, it was honestly kind of crazy. It was at like midnight when this happened. So while we were just chilling outside, there was another call of a giant structure fire, and it was a few blocks away, so we headed over.
Alright, pull up.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
Alright. Let's go past. Watch out.
So one of the rooms in the apartment complex had caught fire from some electrical issues, and so they were able to put it out. The LA Fire Department did a great job handling it, and there was a bunch of trucks and different crews there, so I took a few photos. After they got the fire out, we went back to the station and shot some stuff, which we sent out to the news. And it was pretty sad to see these people that just destroyed the station and tagged and did graffiti and burned like the American flag. It was just so sad. It's so sad that we've come to this in our country. There was a guy that heard about this and actually came out with his own American flag and was out there waving it, and it was just kind of cool to see his support in that after all this crazy stuff had just happened.